My name is Callie Creekmore. I am from New Albany, Mississippi. Grew up here. Went to Millsaps College. Played tennis there for 4 years. After that, came back for about a year and a half. Decided that I wanted to be a lawyer. Got into school in San Diego, California, and finished school there. And now I live there and work as an attorney doing wildfire litigation there. So my first memories of tennis is my dad had built this backboard, just like that plywood. I'm sure it was sophisticated, at least for what materials were there, but nothing super fancy that you see now. Painted green and had a white line, and my mom got me and my brother like a matching tennis racket, and we would just hit up against the backboard. Really, we would watch my mom hit against the backboard and then try to get in there with her. But those are like my first memories playing, and following her around while she would take lessons or hit with her friends. My mom is a very intense person, in all the best ways. Very competitive. Even as a child, I remember, the enthusiasm that she would have on the court. She's always playful and would not chatter too much, but she would she was a very strong player, and she always liked to she's a good player, and but I remember her with others laughing and winning usually. There were some courts at the country club, but the 4 courts over by the middle school is where I remember most of our time playing tennis was.
Do you remember any of her local opponents?
Miss Margaret Maxwell, she was also a fabulous player. Miss Jolynn Cook, I remember her always being a good player. So is Miss Judy Brown, who was the New Albany High School tennis coach for a while. But my mom was a little bit maybe younger than them, so she would travel for younger or just different level tennis sometimes. Not that they weren't great players, but maybe had a little bit more desire to keep branching out. But,
yeah,
they were great. Those were great players that also contributed to the youth programs here. That's where I played all 4 years, and all 4 years of high school, and before that, we didn't have the facility that we have now. It did start with my Miss Margaret and my mom. They would help lead like the quick starts, so that would be like a bunch of kids our age getting out there and playing with the high schoolers like Christopher Davis, and I remember him specifically being a great player that would coach us. But then at that point, the kids that were really interested in it, we would go to tennis camps over the summer. It might be really our parents trying to get us out of the house for a while, but we went to Ole Miss Tennis Camp, like Emily Carroll Aliff, Ann Maxwell, Hannah Prater, and some of the guys like Carl Kapaning, Jacob Rowland. They were also great players. So that was kind of when you started meeting other kids that were also into tennis and getting a healthy idea of how competitive you could be in the sport.
What age was that when y'all started going to camps?
Probably like 10 to like 14, I'd say. Maybe younger than that, but not too much younger.
Now in middle school, did you have a team?
So you could try out for the high school team in 7th grade.
Before 7th grade, did y'all have tennis? I mean, was that an option to take tennis, or, during school, I guess?
Not during school. That was always just on your own. There was a pro, his name's Dennis. He was a pretty popular pro in Tupelo that did do lessons, and a lot of New Albany players did go to him, but still that's like requiring kids to travel and family to travel to take lessons from him. other than that, it was really just our community members that would get out there with you.
So when you were in 7th grade, that was the first time you could try it for high
Right.
school. Did you make it your first year?
I made it my first year, but I had a lot of learning to do. Yeah, I was intimidated as being that young, I think, on the team, but they were also winning. They were really good. That was Lauren Steele, Peyton Smith, Christopher Davis, Justin Jarvis, Justin Adair. Justin Jarvis was on the tennis team, but that was my year. But lots of players that were strong.
And that was they were being coached by
Judy Brown.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she coached the boys and the girls.
She did. She was a great coach. She had a really quirky game, like her serve. I always remember her serve being like normally in a serve, or what they maybe like the new kind of technique is to just be as simple and more efficient than adding all these weird things that maybe help you get your mind straight, but just like is what they try to teach now. But she would do this awesome thing where she'd bounce it a couple times on the baseline, and then she'd spin her racket like kind of like a dice or a top, turn it and catch it again, and then serve like that. But every time we would play out a match, she would do that, and that was really cool.
Did she want y'all to try that?
No. So at that time, I think we were 3A, and that's part of the change in our tennis program was that we were 3A, then during maybe my middle school years it turned 4A, and then we got put into this other bracket, or not bracket, but conference with like Oxford, and they would eventually move out of ours, but it just changed the competition. So they were winning. They were really great players. They were playing schools like Corinth in 3A, but still they had won at least a championship by my 7th grade year, maybe 2. I played a little bit in 7th grade, but I didn't end up competing in the state championship in like a single event. But then by 8th grade, maybe 9th grade, I think maybe this was when my mom had taken over, but she had like gotten some permit to where she could close off that street. So it's just, where the courts are is just a short, or not a very lengthy amount of road, and she would get it to where she could put sawhorses at the end, block it off so there's no through traffic, and then they would move bleachers in. So that created a safer place for people to watch, and that's when we started getting a lot more people to come, or that I noticed. I'm sure they were there. Parents always were there previously, but yeah, that was fun.
So what year did your mom come in?
I think that would have been my 8th or 9th grade year. So that would have been, I graduated 2010, so 2007, or 2007 season.
Okay.
Is 9th grade.
Okay.
For me. Okay, yeah. So I played with Miss Judy for 2 or 3 years. Really, other than the conference, I think that we had to step up it wasn't that they weren't good before, but we had to play Oxford, and they had already set a very strong winning program. Just the resources that they have with the university, their courts, they already had probably 10 plus courts over there, and we were working with 4 courts. They probably had pros. I mean, so that's what we were competing against, and we were competing against that with Miss Judy too, but not for the state championship usually. Lucky, like for tennis, like at least compared to football, is that tennis players that play all year round, you're getting to play against some of those Oxford tennis players. So it's at least you're exposed to people beyond your team, whereas like the football team wouldn't get to really compete against other schools or other towns throughout the year.
Yeah.
So we would enter tournaments and play girls from Pontotoc or Tupelo, and that would otherwise, like, you may not get to. Tennis is, it's a competitive sport because it's an individual sport and it's just you out there. You can't really receive like a lot of coaching like during these matches and stuff. So, but you get to know the person across the net. Most of the time it's good, healthy. Like when you have a really tough match, that ends up being one you remember, and for the most part you enjoy playing a good match like that. My sister-in-law, Anna Creekmore, I played against her in high school, but her sister, Elizabeth Cressman, I loved playing her. She was a really talented player from Pontotoc, and I enjoyed when I would run into her at tournaments. She was a really good player. There was also some girls from Oxford and Tupelo I liked playing against. But, you know, it kind of goes back to just our town being small, and when you got your parents dragging kids all over doing all kinds of sports, Josh, my brother, and Lewis being more, and you know, you don't get to travel much beyond your little area always, but yeah. And I'm probably mixing up some of these years, but I think my mom took over, and I mean, she was building off of her, like the women I had just mentioned, a lot of them women in the community had basically taught my age how to play tennis and improved our skills, developed and honed them throughout our high school career. And by the time I was a senior, you know, Ann Maxwell, Emily Carroll Aliff, Emily Kirkland, Devin Mills, Luke Lawrence, Luke Wilson. I mean, we were, all of us were on a state championship court in an individual capacity and competed for that, every single one of them. But that's attributed to our community, I think.
That was by the end of your high school year. Mm-hmm. Y'all were all individual. You're
at
competing.
Least finalists.
Yeah,
if
finalists.
We didn't already win, if they had not won.
And as a team, did y'all win?
We did. We won my senior year. I think we had won. I think over that period, I had been a part of maybe three championships. The first one may have just been riding the coattails of the previous tennis players, but at least high school too. Yeah, I mean, and tennis is, the sport itself has a lot of different courts, so that being like doubles, singles, doubles two, and then there's a mixed court, so you know, people playing in different, I mean, it's a different game, doubles to singles, so that was fun to compete in different courts like that.
What did you compete in?
I did mixed 1 year with Luke Wilson. Luke Wilson's he's a really great player. He was a phenomenal tennis player. Just skill level was really above most of the people in New Albany. And then my senior year, I did singles. Miss Krotz, though, so she was the assistant coach. She was, I can't believe I didn't mention her earlier, but also a phenomenal player, a very good doubles player. But she was an assistant coach for a very long time with Miss Judy Brown, and even helped with my mom, and then Miss Tamara Godbold, of course, like helped a lot too as assistant coach. I think before, with it being an open street, you just knowing that traffic could go through prevented maybe foot traffic from being able to park and move between court to court safely. So just like logistically, that made it safer and easier to attend. But it just grew from there. Like we got this radio system and would just blast music from it until those busted, and then we actually bought a real one. You know, it became not like a block party, but kind of. And the way the courts are positioned, the top courts, so it's like top courts, street, lower courts. The top courts could see down into the lower courts and created like some, court camaraderie a little bit where you could yell out like, let's go New Albany, or let's go Dogs, things like that. So it kind of, along the way, ricocheted through the fans. There were some grill outs for, I guess our booster club did that, but that's how we would entice students to come.
Free food.
It was a lot of hustling
works.
out there. We would, hey, we're gonna have hot dogs tonight. Y'all gotta come out and watch the tennis matches. Because of our courts, just having 4 courts and the way that it was clear that it wasn't a tennis complex compared to maybe other schools. And, instead of being self-conscious or ashamed of what we had, it's like, I feel like it, especially when Miss Judy Brown was there with all those boys. I mean, I had mentioned like Peyton Smith and Justin Adair and Christopher Davis and them. They built like this notorious type reputation for our tennis team, being not rowdy, but just how they were. I know you probably taught them, so you know who they are, what they're like, and that was something we kind of owned, even going forward, just
like
shaking them up.
the FRA of tennis.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did the FRA show up for your tennis matches?
I might have seen Marshall Ballard there a couple times. I always wanted to play in college. I was most interested in going to a school not your typical Mississippi State school. So I did have an opportunity to play. Division I tennis is very, very competitive, just because there's a lot of, like, the United States has good tennis players, but internationally it's even more, the talent is just, it's huge. So there's not a lot of Division I opportunities. But when Millsaps approached me, that was one of my schools that I really was interested in going to. They had talked to me about soccer, which I kind of met some of the girls there and wasn't super sure if I wanted to do that. But when I met the tennis team, I was like, I think I can do well, because just like in 7th grade, I was intimidated by joining a team, and I selfishly like to win, so I didn't want to just sit on the beach, or the bench, not the beach, the bench. But when I met that team, I was like, I think I can compete. So committed to that, and I played there for 4 years, and it was awesome.
How did y'all do at Millsaps?
We were terrible our first year, but then we got this. She's one of my best friends to this day, but she's from Mauritius. It's a really tiny island off the coast of Madagascar. But you look at her, she's super tiny and unassuming, but she'll run you all over the court. And once we got her, I was no longer playing one, so I could actually compete, and we did a lot better. By my senior year at Millsaps, we were second in the conference, and me and Dina, we played as a doubles team, and we were 8th in the country for that. We're Division III, but still.
It's awesome.
She went on to play in nationals the next year in singles too, so 2 years, and it's the best our program's done.
Wow.
Yeah.
You still playing today?
I still play. My mom, when she comes to visit me in San Diego, we play at Balboa, and she's well known there too. She could go to any club or any tennis facility and someone would know who she is, or when's your mom coming back? Yeah, but still play, but not as competitively as those years. Some sports, the cost of entry can deter folks. One thing about New Albany is that, I know when my mom was here, she did develop that middle school tennis program. so they could just walk across. And my mom had tons of extra rackets, or that was something that the Booster Club had invested in. So really, anyone that was really interested, like, they could play, and that's probably different from a lot of schools. But once you get a hold of a racket, you know, you can keep playing as long as you have courts and some balls, which you could probably find at the local dog park. You know, you can play. As far as a lifetime, like it's an active sport, but there's all kinds of tennis you can play. You've probably heard of pickleball too, like things like that have kind of morphed into sports that maybe you don't move as much, but yeah, it's something that you can play forever. It's easier on your joints than some things, but it's also a social sport.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can be as competitive as you want, or you can just get out there and hang out with your friends for a while. Thinking about the experience and the roles that women have played in the tennis team, men and women's tennis team. It's really a joint team, but pretty awesome. I mean, they're competitive, skilled players that have built this program into what it is. Like, what is it, like 11 state championships now? And those original players are the ones that really fostered that in this town. It's cool. Luke played at ICC for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they have a great team. And since we graduated, Maggie, my cousin, she went on to play at ICC. They have a really good tennis team.
I feel like others have too, haven't they? Surely, with all of those state championships, there have been other kids.
Megan Trexler, she played at Northeast, and so maybe currently Allison Chapin. But as far as four-year places, Morris Kelly, Miss Susan Morris's granddaughter, she ended up going to Millsaps and playing there for 4 years. So I was really stoked about that. Having another New Albany girl at Millsaps, and so was Grayson Gobbold. He played there or he might still be there too, but 4 years.
I guess y'all's times never overlapped.
Mm-mm.
You were gone before.
I was gone, but it's a great thing to have, like, that connection, New Albany to Millsaps, and they have a good tennis program now. The courts are just incredible. That's the difference between our courts and the other facilities when I was playing. But now it's even better. It's a beautiful place to enjoy playing and watching. I think just the accessibility makes it a more attractive sport maybe to people in the community. And having Bo Bowman there for a while, or I guess until maybe this year, but has helped because people of all level can get instructional help on how to improve, and that makes a difference too. But just having that space, it's pretty cool. I wish we'd have it.
Yeah.
Bringing in tournaments, and that way you're not having to travel. So people that don't normally get to go to Corinth or Tupelo, Memphis to play in tournaments, it brings people to New Albany to play. It's a special program. I know that about our program, just the people that have had hands on it and have shaped it into what it is, but I like highlighting that it was women in the community, and not just like moms. Like, these were skilled players that were out there in the heat feeding you balls and instructing you on how to improve. And like, they didn't have what we had. just how they had improved and built their skill level, and shared that with us, and it's pretty cool. I think it was after Josh graduated, so maybe 2013, 14.
Did Josh play tennis?
Mm-hmm. He kind of picked tennis up. Well, he'd always played. We'd on family vacations and stuff. We would always play, but he didn't join the team until his senior year.
Okay.
Just riding the coattails of all those other teammates, so he could share in on a championship.
He wanted a ring.
Yeah, exactly. But that's another thing about tennis. I feel like our program, if you really wanted to play and be a part of a team, you could be on the team and serve in some capacity. Like, you would have to be. No one's going to turn you away for being not that great. It's always good to have extra bodies out there. You would think that it's a white collar type sport, but I feel like not in New Albany so much.
Yeah.
I still think that there are stereotypes and reputation things that you could do better at, obviously, making it more accessible to people in our community, but at least when I was playing, it was tried to be. I mean, that's a lot of our sports, though. In New Albany, we have such a unique community where I don't feel like maybe other schools have that accessibility. A lot of it's our location of where all our schools are. I mean, anybody could go up to the courts and play, or even basketball courts all over.
Yeah, you're right.
Certainly we can improve, but
yeah,
it's still. In middle school and high school, and just middle schoolers interacting with high schoolers, it's even, that's probably for all sports though, it helps you mature to see the older kids or older students set certain examples of sportsmanship and competition that you look up to. And even kindness, like Elizabeth Googe, she would pick me up from the middle school and then take me to the courts, and Ann Maxwell would do that because she was a little bit older than us and was the first one to get her driver's license. But it's a lot of things like that are off the court that help build your friendships and rapport with your community. I still think, if you're listening, City of New Albany, we still need a sidewalk and a crosswalk over by that intersection on 15 and Main. I think we do. One thing too, just that New Albany, or the tennis team being co-ed, and because it is, because you have that mixed court and you're always traveling together. Like, I think that also helped build like some maturity, or just I don't know. Maybe I haven't put my finger on exactly what I think it meant, but I think back on my friendships with Devin and Luke Lawrence and Thomas Beam, who was our manager and helped out with stuff. Just think of those memories too fondly, like having those relationships that maybe otherwise you wouldn't. We weren't like that with the men's soccer team,
Yeah.
Soccer team.
Well, because you weren't on the same team.
Yeah.
But in tennis, you are.
Because you can, especially at a certain level, it's good to compete against different skill levels, and it would be good to hit with Luke Lawrence and Devin and have their serves and to improve. And I'm focusing a lot on my grade, but Carl Kapaning and Jacob Rowland were phenomenal tennis players. Really great tennis players. you also have like your own individual expression in the way you play. And that, as I'm thinking about all my classmates, there were so many things about their tennis game that I really admired and appreciated.
You were the class president.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the class marshal?
Bobby Cawthorpe, who just had a child, I think, him and his wife. So he might have his hands full, but yeah. We have a cool class. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but
yeah,
the things that they've done and overcome, pretty special. One quick thing, I know I feel like I'm like picking up on some things I just want to share, but in high school, so we were still at we were always at those little courts, but Marshawn Braxton was part of the tennis team, who passed away in 2009. And before that, he had this PT Cruiser. That was like his car that he had. It would, yeah, you know what they look like. But anyway, he had a PT Cruiser, and I'm not sure what he was doing, but he crashed into the lower court, one of the lower courts at the tennis courts. Well, it went off of that. It's a single road. You know, you can go left or right. One's up and one's down. He rolled off of the road into the bottom court, tore up the tennis net. The fence was all knocked down. The whole thing. He didn't get in trouble for it. But when he passed away, my mom, as the tennis coach, along with a lot of other teachers and the administration, had petitioned to the city to have that court named in his honor. And that was shared at our sports banquet, that court will forever be his court.
So is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a little plaque?
There was one. I need to go by and see if it's there. But we would tease him so much about that. But yeah, that was a fun memory. How did you break a tennis court? Oh man, Willie Brewster. He lived on Central, but he was a really great tennis player. Just the nastiest of serves. Just ridiculous serve. And he would play with Taylor Lindsay sometimes in doubles. I love that.
What a pair.
I know. I loved it. That was awesome. I'm trying to think of some other players that I didn't mention, but Kristen Buskert and Callie Cochran, they were always doubles players, and those were they were good players too. But
they were older than you, right?
1 year.
Willie and Taylor?
They were 2 years. They graduated in 2008. He is a rock star now.
He is a rock star.